I'll pass over to you. I always think a good place to start is just kind of a little bit of an introduction, but I know you've prepped a few things, so
Yeah,
you run with it the way you want to.
yeah. Okay, perfect. Firstly, like it's good to see everyone. It's good to be here. I will share my screen now. And essentially I've put together it's a pretty kind of big presentation to be honest, but I've tried to go as in depth as possible. Because I think I've lots of relevant experience in the industry. And I think when it comes to approaching digital skills and things like that, I've been like in the industry for about 6 years. So yeah, I'm just gonna take you through my own just like kind of personal I guess story. And then try to like interweave some like actionable things which as people can basically take away from. So yeah, as a talk is called the three stages of skill mastery. Um, so in terms of what it's going to be about, it's basically three different phases in my career and then some takeaway lessons. So let's get started. So yeah, I'm Joe. I'm 27. Um, I'm basically living like in Manchester currently. Like I love music. I support Man United, unfortunately. And then in terms of like kind of business and kind of creativity, that's always been a massive passion of mine. Um, and I started Spring Creative, which is a marketing agency. And I started that about 2.5 years ago now. So in terms of the first phase, which I've just called phase one right now, I'd basically graduated university in 2018. I'd studied digital media and communications. I'd done like a wide range of different skills here from like kind of video. I'd done documentaries, I'd done coding, I'd done graphic design. Yeah, I just done everything to be honest, which was very, like I guess it gave me like a very generalist skill set. But I wasn't really sure it was like kind of which path to go down next. There was lots of kind of possible routes of basically specializing and then being a generalist. So I just basically just spoke to lots of people and I got in contact with a business owner who ran like a software company and I basically landed like an internship there and then that had turned into like a full-time role. So in this software company, I was basically like I was just a marketing executive. Um, and it was a pretty small team. And I was just doing loads of different things, being a jack of all trades. I was working on kind of project management, on strategy, on social media, on advertising, on video, on making people coffees, just like everything. Um, but I realized I was doing lots of things, but I realized I wanted to actually specialize on a certain skill. Um, and I wanted to find one that like kind of complemented my own strengths and my own personality. And I always like enjoyed writing and like communication and then like analysis and basically measuring some kind of impact. So I wanted to find a skill that had basically combined both those things. In terms of kind of challenges of of this specific phase in my life, I would say imposter syndrome was probably um, the biggest one. I'd say this feeling of just feeling like inferior in a business setting, I think came from like a lack of experience and a lack of knowledge. I was working with people who basically had 30 years experience in business and I had literally had like a couple months. But I think the kind of solution that I'd found to this was just knowing that like even if you know 1% more on a certain subject than somebody, then that's a really valuable thing. And also knowing that as being young, that's an advantage as well. Or like as being fresh in an industry, it's an advantage because it gives you like a fresh perspective on things. Um, and especially being young because I think kind of different generations consume media now in different ways, especially TikTok and things like that. And I think coming to that kind of realization really gave me had like helped me to find a voice in the industry. So yeah, if I was to kind of summarize this phase of my career, I would call this the like kind of discovery phase, which is exploring different paths and skills in the early stage of a career. So there's lots of kind of trial and error of learning and of self-discovery. So at this stage, I had about 7 months experience. I had lots of different skills and I had a direction which I wanted to kind of head in, which was more like kind of specializing into a certain skill. So this takes us onto phase two, which was I wanted to find a skill that was suited to my strengths. So like I've always been interested in kind of storytelling and like communication, whether that is through films, through kind of TV, through video games, books, anything like that. And I've always enjoyed data analysis as well and actually measuring the impact of things. So I've done some research, and then I found paid advertising as a skill, which had like combined those things. And I felt like those were kind of suited to my strengths and my personality as well. So I landed a kind of a digital marketing agency role in 2019. This was a small agency in Bolton called Tau Digital. It was an SEO company, but they had wanted to build like a paid advertising department, so like in Google ads and Facebook ads, things like that. And I was brought in as a junior to basically build that like kind of side of the business. So in terms of my responsibilities, it was basically managing marketing budgets for our clients. We were working with lots of really big clients in the UK. And yeah, so like I was kind of thrown like um um in the deep end straight away and was managing like up to budgets of like kind of £10,000 a month. And I actually really loved it because I could see the impact I was having on people's businesses in terms of the sales figures. And it was also good to be like kind of held accountable as well, in terms of if something is working for someone or if it's not. And yeah, as a skill, it just really complemented my own kind of personality strengths. Um, so what I'd also tried to do in this phase of my career was just kind of build my own network. So I went to lots of networking events. I went to like industry events. I listened to speakers. I went to co-working spaces, cafes, and just tried to focus on just expanding my own network and just connecting with lots of people. And then I also did this on LinkedIn and then just started to build a personal brand and then gain some followers and stuff like that. And found this was really good just for like establishing a voice in the industry. In terms of like kind of challenges in this phase, I think the biggest one was there was a skill gap between what was expected of me in the role and then my actual skills and experience at the time. So what I did in terms of kind of bridging the gap was that I focused on just lots of self-education. So kind of watching loads of YouTube videos. I would read lots of books. I'd do video courses. I'd listen to podcasts. I'd just Google loads of stuff as well. And then obviously now there's like kind of TikTok to do that as well, which is a really good kind of educational tool now. And then also as a way of acquiring skills outside of work, I'd work on lots of side projects. So these were like a couple that I'd basically started working on. So one of them was like an e-commerce brand called Custom Hero Prints, and it never took off. But yeah, and then as we built like a content website as well that was focused around drones, and then we had basically sold that last year. And then I also made like an Upwork profile, and just started doing like little jobs, just like advertising jobs for people and just trying to build skills that way as well. So I would say this phase of my career I'd call like is the mastery phase, which is where like as you focusing in on a certain skill, I guess building like I guess your expertise and gaining practical experience in a certain like in a specialty. Um, and then going into phase three, obviously COVID happened and had basically shook the world. But what as this did in terms of like kind of digital transformation in businesses was that I think it actually forced lots of businesses to invest in digital marketing and the online side of their businesses. And I realized there was a demand for digital skills, and it was going to like increase, and there was a shortage in terms of the actual supply as well. And in my current agency, I felt like on the paid advertising side, there was a bit of like it wasn't really like a big focus. So I launched Sprint Creative in 2021, and I decided to basically build to like kind of build the business just around one skill of paid advertising. I'd done that because I had loads of experience in it, and I also thought from like a marketing perspective and a sales perspective and an operations perspective that this would be the like easiest way of basically going about things at first. Um, I think also building it on kind of paid advertising was a good move because it's a skill which lends itself to monthly retainers, and that was really good for like cash flow. Um, so yeah, I'd instead of like hiring people full time and like having offices, I'd kind of hopped on board of the trend of kind of remote working and had instead leveraged a network of freelancers and contractors and then kind of brought them on a project basis instead of like hiring full-time staff. And that has worked really well, like as a way of basically growing the business and like getting results for people. Um, but yeah, I think that it's important to know is when to specialize and when to generalize. I think in my first role, I'd basically become like a generalist. In my second role, I definitely specialized, and then starting a business, I became a generalist again, and like had loads of different skills to learn. Um, in terms of the challenges, I would say kind of knowing which skills to stack on top of each other. I think this is easier if you have a direction which you want to go in. Um, and I think as well that it's important just to, if you find a direction, is to basically start to like kind of build skills straight away and like gain some momentum. That's a very powerful force. And yeah, it's something which can basically compound over time. And if you wait around too long, then like other people are like going to overtake you basically. So we are still working on different side projects, which we now like have as internal clients in the agency. So we've one that is a music page on Instagram that is called Sound Vibrations, which has really taken off recently. And then also Bits for Pets, which is an e-commerce pet brand. And yeah, I'd say side projects are really good in terms of just building skills, to be honest. And these are skills which we can then like kind of like almost transfer then then like onto our clients as well. And also decreasing the risk of losing clients by like kind of building our own. So yeah, I would call this phase the like kind of monetization phase, which is where as you basically leveraging skills in order to like kind of create or as to grow a business, or it could just be to um advance in um and like advance in your career like in a certain role or like in a profession. Um, so as to recap, there is the discovery phase, which is where as you're building some kind of understanding in your skill set, in yourself, and in your industry. Then it's the mastery phase, which is actually building skills and expertise. And then monetization, which is actually building some kind of leverage using those skills. So in terms of of takeaway lessons, I would say it's really important just to understand yourself and your own strengths. Have some kind of plan for like kind of gaining skills and acquiring them, or a direction. I think also deciding which points in your career as you want to generalize and then also specialize. I would say side projects are a great thing. I'd say I'd say build your own personal brand and invest in self-education. Um, and yeah, as one skill can basically can shape your career. So as choose wisely and enjoy the process. And yeah, that's the end. Thanks for listening.
Perfect. Cheers, Joe. Yeah, really appreciate that and going through. I was jotting down a few questions. I know people are going to try get a few in as well. So anyone who has any, feel free to either throw it in this Zoom chat and we can ask on your behalf, or just raise your hand.
Yeah.
Just a couple of things from my side that you kind of touched upon. One was that you go to various different places to kind of upskill and learn about whatever it is that you need to touch upon, whether that's like a podcast or TikTok, etc. Is there
Yeah.
any particular podcast, particular place you go that comes to mind when you're trying to upskill for these new areas?
Yeah, so I think for me, I went down the like kind of PPC route and the paid advertising route. So there was a few which kind of stand out. There was one that's called Surfside PPC, which was really good. There was one that's called the Paid Search Podcast. And then there's loads of just pretty big YouTubers who do lots of like kind of digital marketing content on YouTube. Um, Lots of like kind of blogs as well. So there's like SEM Rush. There's one that's called Moz. Um, but yeah, I'd say TikTok now like is such a good search engine, like in terms of just being able to find things instantly. So I'd say using TikTok as well is a good shout.
Perfect. And we had a question come through, which you kind of touched on. It's quite timely anyway. Before you jumped on at lunch, we were having a bit of a Q&A with Amy regarding like freelancing and how you can put yourself out there.
Yeah.
The question from Jake is, as an agency, what qualities do you look for in potential freelancers who get in touch in terms of the scalability of their skills and also the way they reach out to you via email, etc.?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I think I'd say portfolio is a massive one. So like kind of what's your experience? Have you found a way of actually kind of showcasing I guess those skills in projects? If not, then I'd say just some kind of hunger as to learn and a curiosity. I think those are like important. I think it's hard to teach someone to be interested in the subject and to be curious. So I think if people can show that and maybe don't have loads of skills, I think that's also is a good thing as well.
Great, thank you.
Now you've got your hand raised, so I'll pass over to you.
Hi, am I off
Hello.
mute? Sorry, I always feel like I'm still on mute. Thank you so much, first of all, for all of the advice. It's
Yeah.
super relevant.
Thank you.
Something similar that I'm going through is I've been a general marketer for the past 6-7 years now.
Yeah.
And I'm looking now to specialize, so I'm kind of at that bridge stage.
Yeah.
And the area that I've chosen is paid marketing.
Oh, nice.
I've used it inside projects and I've enjoyed it. And I feel like that's where I want to go. What would be some additional tips for bridging that gap? Because that's the issue that I'm finding, is that on paper I've got 7 years worth of experience and it's like, wow, but when I'm going to like jobs that are in kind of the paid arena, I don't have 7 years of experience in paid marketing. So how do you bridge that gap? Or I know you've mentioned to kind of self-train and that kind of stuff, but any additional tips that you would have to sort of show an employer that, look, I don't have the skills that you've got on the job description, but I'm willing to learn and step that foot through the door initially?
Yeah, so I would say I'm not sure if you've done these already, but there's certain it's like kind of qualifications you can do. So there's one that's called the Facebook. I think it's called the Facebook. Yes, that's the one.
Yeah.
And then there's like a Google Ads one as well. So I'd say doing those courses show like a hunger to learn and then some kind of like kind of theoretical knowledge. I think as the issue in terms of like kind of building experience with paid ads is you need someone's money to test it on. and that's a difficult thing. So I think like on the theory side, just building that's a good start. I
Yeah.
think if you can maybe find like an internship or something doing it, if it's just for like a few months or something, that's another good route. I think I also made like an Upwork account, and I just started applying to jobs and just doing little jobs like on the side, and just started building skills like that as well. So yeah, I would say probably those, but I think if it's something which you actually want to go into, I think a lot of employers will respect the fact as you might not have loads of experience, because it's something that is like kind of hard to basically get into. Um, it's testing other people's money, isn't it? So, but
Yeah.
like if you can show like a theory side to it, I think that's a good
Yeah.
start.
Yeah, I mean, so I've used it on various personal projects, but they've been very small scale. So I just feel like I do mention that I've done sort of paid marketing, but then it's kind of
Yeah.
like, well, is it enough experience to actually work on actual projects for actual clients and show that I can do that with bigger budgets? So I think that's kind of like a bit of the catch-22 that I'm currently in, where I've got like 7 years behind me, but then it's like, actually not in paid, you know.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean,
yeah.
yeah, I've probably people I could introduce you to as well who, yeah, um, like could help, like agencies who like, I don't know, might as be starting on like kind of smaller accounts. I think that could be like a good start.
Nice, thank you, that I appreciate that, thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
But we also had another question come up through in the chat, which was, could you tell us a bit more about your initial internship that you found with a software company?
Yeah, so basically this company was called Social Profit Calculator. It was based in the construction industry. It was a calculator which could basically calculate the economic, the social, and environmental value of like construction projects. So we had clients such as like Balfour Beatty, like had Manchester City Council, and worked on a town hall project, things like that. So my role was to like kind of create kind of marketing like around the software and the value of it. So I did lots in terms of like Instagram content, of LinkedIn content. I did lots of like kind of video animations just using certain tools. And then also did lots of kind of design work in terms of our proposals, which we started pitching businesses to. So I was doing just like a massive range of different things, and just almost, yeah, like kind of testing my own skill set there.
Perfect. And one that we like to ask people, I guess, and we had it with some of the previous guests as well. So what's been your toughest moment, I guess? We know obviously it's not easy going on the journey if you're doing like entrepreneurship, going out on your own. So maybe talk a little bit about, I guess, yeah, the lows as well that come along with it.
Oh yeah, and there's been a lot. I would say, I mean, it's ironic as like as my job, um, I was managing advertising budgets, but I'd say the finance side of business has been the most challenging. Probably because I'm quite like a creative person as well, and maybe I'm just not I'm like kind of wired on the finance side. But yeah, that has been a challenge in terms of just clients paying late, and then like having lots of bills in the business and just managing cash flow. I would say that has been the most stressful side of it so far.
Yeah, perfect. Just in terms of then actually going back to more the starting out and freelance side, how did you determine what to charge for your time and kind of work on the side projects when you were first starting out?
Yeah, that's a good question. So on Upwork, um, this was like a little like almost hack that I did. So I'd basically create like a fake job, and then I'd see as to people's proposals, and then I'd almost gauge how much other people would start charging. And then I'd just go like on the profiles and look at their like kind of skill set and experience, and then almost compare myself, and then basically gauge it from there.
That's such a good way of doing it. Yeah, I don't know how ethical it is, but it's a very good way. Perfect. Are there any other questions from anyone else? Feel free to either keep throwing it in the chat or just shout out. One more has just come through. How easy is it to get an internship in your industry, so within marketing?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think as like coming on like a like kind of skill academy such as this is a really good start. That's probably is you're in the right place right now, which is a good thing. I think, you know, there's lots of agencies, there's lots of brands out there. As to like how easy it is, yeah, I guess I just got it through just like speaking to lots of different people. I just emailed people as well. Like I did lots. I've just cold email and networked with people on LinkedIn and just tried to and create those opportunities for myself really. So I think as long as you can show some kind of willingness to learn and you reach out to people, then I think it should like yeah, but it should be pretty easy for you.
Yeah, I agree. That's what when I first moved back to Manchester, I remember spamming a lot of agency owners, just being like,
Yeah.
anything that you need help with. I ended up picking a job elsewhere, but agencies I always found like, they need that additional support. So it's probably
Yeah.
a good starting point. And then Tina's just asked a question here. If there was one skill within marketing to grow your knowledge, what would that be?
One skill to grow your knowledge. In terms of kind of growing your knowledge of marketing.
I suppose if there's like one subsect of marketing, what do you think would be sort of the most valuable going forward?
Yeah, I think overall digital strategy. That's probably what as like kind of Sprint has almost turned into now is more like of a strategy consultancy. I think having like an understanding of multiple channels that so like it's paid advertising and also social media and things like that. I think having like an overall like kind of understanding of just marketing strategy is really powerful. And that is more like of a generalist way of looking at it. Um, it is then like understanding those kind of specialties. But yeah, as from like a big picture perspective, I think that's really it's important.
Brilliant, thank you.
Perfect. Not seeing any more come through the chat. So any more for any more? If you've got a question, shout out. Forever hold your peace.
I wanted to ask Joe if you're still working with freelancers or are you able to hire full-time employees already?
So I'd taken on my first full-time a year and a half ago. So yeah, that's my brother now that had basically come through Fearless. And then we are still working with a bunch of different contractors and freelancers, but it's the same ones we've been working with for like a year and a half now. So as they almost feel like a full-time staff. I think at some point I do want to expand and actually grow a like kind of small team of full-time people. I think right now I think kind of things are working for us right now like as it is. So yeah.
Can you share any experience with working and handling a team of mostly freelancers? Is it challenging or does that work for you?
Yeah, so I mean, it really works to be honest. I think it works because I've managed to find really reliable freelancers. Obviously there is going to be some who like almost ghost you and stuff, but I think that's like comes down to more like of a qualification stage of working with people, and just really vetting people and knowing that they like kind of want to build a long-term partnership with you. I think that's been yeah, has been important. In terms of the challenges, I guess working with freelancers is they obviously like kind of have their own clients. So you might need to pay a bit more to get a bit more like of their time. So there's a cost factor there as well. But I think in terms of just flexibility on both sides, it's a really good way of dealing with things. And then in terms of like kind of building up a network as well, as you can build up a network in your industry where like as you have a massive pool of different people which you can like almost bring in onto different onto different projects. So
Oh, thank you.
Perfect. One as well that we have asked previous session speakers as well. So in terms of when you were first starting out, did you get any support to help your business initially, whether that would be financial guidance, mentorship, etc., or did you just go out alone?
Yeah, like it was alone, to be honest. Like even as my parents were like, don't don't do it. Um yeah, I'd literally just done it on my own, to be honest. Which I think obviously in the second lockdown was like it did feel like I was risking like a lot at the time, but I think as I mentioned in the presentation with like how COVID had just accelerated digital business in general, I thought I'm like gonna I'm gonna place a bet on this. And then yeah, like it seems to have worked out so far.
Perfect. And I'm going to put in the chat, guys, as well. If you are looking for that kind of support or financial start, the British Bank do a startup loan. It is a personal loan, but you get free mentorship and a variety of templates and someone to kind of lean on throughout the process. So if that is something that you're looking for your own thing, I'll fire that in the chat afterwards. Perfect. And you also mentioned, actually, just last one from me then, when you're reaching out to these freelancers or you've got them, you're kind of building up your network. Is that something you do consciously, like you go to networking events and you're making sure that you're in the same kind of communities as other people in your area? Or have you just found over the years from being, kind of doing what you're doing that comes naturally?
Yeah, I'd say probably like a mix. Like it does come naturally, but in the first year of starting the business, I joined a co-working space in Manchester, and it was really, really valuable. Like I'm still there now, and I go in probably 2 days a week, and that is full of freelancers and people like in the industry, and I connect with them, and we just like kind of work on projects together. Um, and I do try and like go like into networking events and stuff like that. So I'd say definitely like a mix of them both has been like kind of some kind of intention there, and also it's an organic thing. And I think on LinkedIn as well, that's like if you can gain attention on LinkedIn and basically connect with lots of people and then build your network, then that's really going to serve you. And the co-working space is called Bonded Warehouse, by the way. I've just seen that come through then.
Perfect.
Sorry, can I just ask one more question?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I'm just curious, if you were to do it all over again, would you do some things differently? Like
Um,
lessons.
yeah, so what I would do differently is that when I like up to now really, I've basically grown the business based off my marketing skills, and I think I would have focused more on like kind of building a sales process. Um, so we've basically like kind of won clients just through like kind of my own personal LinkedIn and just doing posts, things like that, and like Instagram content, and then my own network as well, and just referrals. But we've not really won business from like approaching businesses directly. And I think what I've seen it I've seen like in the past year is that kind of when the market is basically slowing down a little bit, then is you need a sales process to go and approach businesses because that is the most reliable thing to do because you can actually control that. Whereas the kind of people approaching to you, that's less controllable. So if I could go back in time, I'd I'd basically build like a sales function and a sales process from the start.
Good, thank you.
Perfect. Well, yeah, cheers for your time, Joe. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, good chatting.
Anyone's got any questions? Is there a place they should follow you, follow your socials or anything?
Yeah, so on LinkedIn, let me drop in my profile, shameless plug. And you can follow me there, and any questions you've got, then yeah, then just feel free to message me. And then where's the chat?
Throw in your music account as well, because that's a really good one. Get all the
Yeah,
stuff.
I will drop that in as well. If you're into like kind of hip hop and jazz music, then I think you'll like it. If not, then it's probably not for you. So let me drop that in the chat as well. And then if you ever want to look on the Sprint website, as I showed in the presentation, then I'll drop the link in the chat as well. And yeah, and then like any further questions after this, then just feel free to message me.
Brilliant. Cheers, Joe.
All right, cheers, guys.
Thanks,
All right,
Joe.
that's it.
Cheers, Joe. Thank you.
Bye, guys.